So Gagan Gotra, who's a friend of the podcast, says that you are one of the best marketers he knows. And he's like, you got to have Nathan on the show. And I'm like, all right.
That's flattering. Thank you.
Well, thanks to Gagan for connecting us. Can you share a bit about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm co-founder of a paid media agency in Australia. We've been operating for about 4.5 years. Um, we're unique. Number one, we put out a lot of content, so that's how we got connected in the first place. Similar to yourself, but where we have found a unique position in the market is tying finances directly into paid media. So being financially orientated with everything rather than just looking at in-platform attributed numbers. Um, I would hope that we understand finance better than most people in Australia. You won't just see like, oh, we track against profit, which is sometimes the narrative spin of an agency, but we can walk you through cash conversion cycles. We can walk you through tracking profit contribution at a product category level and how that connects into paid media. So we've gone incredibly deep with that expertise. And then recently we've started to also introduce creative depth into our understanding, into our content. So it's now just not my face on the business. We actually have a creative strategist internally as well. So we're going a little bit broader, but really we've been siloed down into finance and performance marketing for e-com brands.
And when I was researching you, I saw that you built your first site when you were 8 years old.
Have you found that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that my uncle was a developer for websites and games back in the day. So I like got interested in tech and websites and stuff when I was 8.
And I also saw that you built a seven-figure ecom business in 1 year while you were at university.
Yeah, that was when I was 19. That's how I like got into ecom in the first place, which is I it literally started like all probably 19-year-olds these days going to YouTube and going, how do I make money? And then the first thing that I found was drop shipping back in what was kind of the glory days of drop shipping back then. And so I started drop shipping, lost all my money, just kept losing money. Was doing rowing coaching at the time because I came off the back of being a rower in year 12, losing money, losing money, losing money. And then eventually accrued enough skills to where stuff started working. And so about 6 months in, um, a lot of stores started working all at once in a lot of different niches. And then a few of them got to $1 million run rates. And I think I did like 1.4 million in the next 6 month period after the 6 months of just losing money the whole time. Um, so that was obviously a really good experience that got me into ecom, understanding finances as well, and how the whole thing fits together.
Why did you switch to agency?
Because when you're running a drop shipping model, their barrier to entry is so low that people will come in and clone your stores, clone your products very, very quickly. And so it's almost a arbitrage model where you're just trying to find a unique opportunity in the market. And then once you find it, you can ride it for 3 to 6 months and then everyone steals it and squeezes all your margin away because they're effectively selling the same product with the same ads. In drop shipping, people just rip your ads and run them. Um, and so it's a very, very lumpy business unless you go down the route of building a proper brand,
Yeah.
which e-com businesses should do, so they have a moat.
And you
Um,
you weren't interested in doing that.
I'm not product orientated. No, like I don't really care about product.
Wow.
Yeah. I really liked the marketing. Like I loved Facebook ads. I loved Google ads. And it was all I would do all day is just consume content from everyone. And I thought, damn, maybe I should try to do this for others. Maybe I should try freelance or start an agency. And so that's the route I went down.
This method of marketing is so effective, I had to make sure it wasn't against Google's rules before I kept doing it. It's a form of SEO I call compact keywords. Whereas most SEO focuses on putting up articles to answer questions how, what, when, compact keywords focuses on putting up dozens of pages that sell to searchers who are actually looking to buy. These pages rank on Google and convert so much better than normal that when I discovered this years ago, I couldn't believe this was allowed. It's less work too. The average compact keywords page is only 415 words. Compact Keywords is a 13-hour deep course on getting sales with SEO. A customer recently said, Each lesson is dense with information. You're giving years worth of experience boiled down into 15 to 30-minute lessons with no filler or fluff. I feel like I'm gaining a new superpower. Compact Keywords is about setting up an SEO funnel that brings you sales for years and years and years. It works with AI, it's less work than traditional SEO, and it makes way more money. You can get it now at compactkeywords.com. Back to the podcast. When you say you were consuming content from anyone, was there anyone that you were learning from early on?
Yeah, Solutions 8 was a big one for Google Ads back in the day. I would now I'm actually friends with Carson, who exited that business, but that was like my biggest one at the time for sure.
All right, so I want to ask you about how you're profit and loss driven, because a lot of agencies claim to be that. So how do you actually connect your marketing decisions to your client's bottom line?
A lot of different ways I could go about answering this. The main one is that most agencies, well, so there's you could break everything down into probably two different businesses, which is that you have large businesses at 8 to 9 figures, and then you have smaller businesses in the 7, maybe even 6-figure range. At 6 to 7 figures, it's not rocket science to run paid media and figure out how well it's performing, because it's probably your only paid media channel. It's probably your only media channel as a whole. And so you go and spend 10 grand on Facebook ads, you do $50,000 in revenue. Well, the 10 grand probably caused the 50. And so simply just indexing your spend towards total revenue and then being able to do basic profit calculations down the P&L is all you need. As you start to move up into 7, 8, and 9 figures, it starts to become incredibly unclear as to what channel is actually driving incremental impact in the business, because there's so many channels firing at once. And so you would have SEO, then there would be Facebook, then there would be Google, then you've got email that's like Klaviyo will claim 40% of your revenue. So you're kind of like, how's that involved? You start getting a really complex position there where people don't know how to handle it and make confident decisions. And so that is where you start to bridge into focusing paid media on just new customer acquisition. So you want to be looking at not the total revenue, not the total P&L, but cutting it down into a new customer P&L only. So you're looking at new customer revenue, spend for new customers, COGS against new customers, and then you've got a new customer profit contribution number. Secondly, you need to start looking into more complex measurement systems like incrementality testing, where you are really rudimentarily, you're like taking Facebook, you're spending a lot more, you're doing nothing else across any other channel, and you're saying, was there an impact? Now you can take that to a more complex level by doing proper geo-lift experiments in actual controlled software solutions, etc. But that is the kind of discussions you want to be having with your agency if you're working with an agency at those kind of size levels, to have confidence that they are able to connect to the P&L.
Yeah, I had an analytics expert on the show actually like a week and a half ago. And nice. he was saying the same thing. He was saying the same thing about geo. Yeah, can you talk more about like how you handle attribution, especially if there's a delay? So you're spending more on one channel, but then there could be like a delay in purchasing. But I guess yeah, how do you even determine that delay?
Yeah, so how you determine the time to purchase, you can get an estimation out of GA4, which is okay, same as Google, but the better way to do it is to run a geo-lift experiment that you're confident in, and you will get a read every time you do it in the time to lift. And so a good example is like going back to before, you introduce a doubling in meta spend. Let's say you do it in a specific state as well in the US. You would want to measure how long it takes before you see the correlated lift in new customer revenue and new customer orders. The issue with, like, it's never going to be perfect. You're never going to have a perfect time to purchase example, because it's always going to sit on a bell curve. You're going to have some people that purchase instantaneously, some people that take 5 weeks, and then you're really just trying to find where the median sits. But it gives you a good indication as to how you should design experiments within a business, because you need to understand what kind of time period you need to allocate to an experiment. And then it also helps you identify the cutoff periods before and after. So even when you then pull an experiment out, there's going to be a bleed over period in which you're still going to see increased conversions and increased lift, which might give you a false assumption that, oh, it actually wasn't the metaspend that was doing all the work, because when we got rid of it, we're still doing really well. And it's, well, no, these people entered into a funnel, they were educated, and now they're coming towards the end of their purchasing journey, but it occurred after the experiment stopped.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. I'm actually, I'm really curious. Why do you prefer paid media over other marketing channels?
Like SEO?
Yeah. Like SEO
Literally.
or organic social. I mean, you said you
Yeah,
were consuming content early.
Yeah. I would say it was just where I landed, to be honest. Like, I think if I landed in SEO, I would have been as obsessed with SEO. But I just landed in paid ads because under the dropshipping model, you need quick, revenue. Like you could SEO the dropshipping model, but it's a very long. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know enough about SEO to know whether this is a correct statement or not. But I would assume that in paid media, you're getting faster feedback loops for whether you're doing things correctly or not. Whereas in SEO, you might get a much more delayed feedback loop and therefore not be able to learn as a beginner as easy.
Yeah, the savvy people can make it fast, but it's not going to be as fast as paid media.
Yeah. And so that's probably one of the things that drew me to paid media, is these really quick feedback loops. I love getting dopamine hits all the time.
Yeah.
And in paid media, you get those dopamine hits quick, or you get the opposite if you made a bad decision.
When you're working with a client, are you also doing conversion rate optimization? Are you like, this landing page won't work, we need to change this?
Yeah, definitely. So we do landing page builds for a lot of clients. I wouldn't say we're a full-fledged CRO agency by any means, where we're doing controlled A/B split testing. But definitely we're consulting across CRO and building landing pages.
So what are the biggest mistakes that you see with a landing page where you're just like, we've seen this 1,000 times, this isn't going to work, we need to change it to this?
The easiest one is lack of continuity from the front end messaging to the landing page. And that's because one of the best things that you can do in paid media is test multiple different angles, personas, concepts very rapidly to be able to figure out new things that are working and then double down into those new aspects of the business. The easiest way to conceptually think about this is generally through supplements. Almost every supplement you would take or know of, there's 45 benefits. And so rather than saying, hey, there's 45 benefits, we can choose one, silo that out, and then try to test that benefit and then test the next one. The issue is, let's say we pull a benefit and let's say it's muscle building for gym bros. We go and run that in ads, it crushes, it does super well, but we're driving to a landing page that's a generic Shopify setup that just says, here's our product and here's 45 benefits. And like the seventh one on the list is building muscle. You're going to hit that landing page and go, I don't really think this is the solution I was after. It looks like it just does a million things. So in that case, having custom landing pages for those particular personas is critical if you want the test to even work on the front end creative.
That makes perfect sense. Actually, funny enough, that's something that I see in SEO all the time, which is somebody will be targeting a specific keyword with their landing page, and then they'll be kind of using elements, like copy elements from around the website that doesn't actually fit the keyword that they're targeting. And it could be like, a good example is like that list that you just mentioned. And you have that list, but the thing that is actually directly relevant to the keyword is buried in that list, and it's not at the top of the list. And the top of the list is where people's eyes start, and that's what people want to see when they get to that landing page. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it even kind of translates into retention on the back end too, which is that particularly for startups, if you're a supplement, you're testing all of those different angles, and then you find one that works and you double down there, and a lot of your acquisition comes through that. That should also be reflected in your flows and your follow-up sequences. Like, it shouldn't reflect the 45 benefits. It should hone down on what are most people wanting here, and let's reinforce that to some degree.
What is a top reason that a brand should risk short-term losses in Q3 to prepare for a successful Black Friday?
That's a good question. So this actually ties directly back into what we were talking about before, which is that most people underspend moving into November. And the reason why they underspend is because paid media is almost always indexed across short-term ROI, whereas brand sits into long-term ROI. However, when you think about the Black Friday sales period, what you are doing is almost all of your revenue doesn't come from new users who have never seen your brand before. It's almost all people who have had exposure to your particular product, to your solution over the past 7, 30, 90 days. And then during Black Friday, you take that entire funnel of everyone that's interacted with you in some capacity and you pull them through, you collapse it into a moment of revenue being realized. That's actually what every sale is that you're taking everyone that's in the funnel and you're accelerating them through and getting them to buy now rather than waiting the 7 to 10 days that they normally would. And that's why you always have post-sale fatigue. Anytime you go on sale, the next 7, 10 days is terrible. Why is that? It's because all the people that were in the funnel that were going to buy then, naturally, you pulled them forward into that moment. So with that logic and reasoning, you would then assume that the best way to maximize Black Friday would be to make that funnel as large as possible leading up to the period. And that would be through spending a lot more in September and October and getting in front of a lot more people, increasing your rolling reach. However, you don't get an immediate ROI. You don't get an immediate purchase. And so it might look very unprofitable to spend more in October, but it's because you end up realizing it all in November. And so most people don't spend anywhere near the amount that they could leading up into the period.
Are there any times where you don't do Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales?
There's a few brands that are like really particular on not being viewed as a sale brand. I think if I was personally running an e-com brand, I would go on sale in Black Friday. I just think there's so much like revenue realized in e-com across the entire year. It's something like 33 to 40% of all revenue occurs within November, December, within direct-to-consumer e-com, which is crazy. And so it's like to sit out and not capitalize on that doesn't really make sense to me. You can do it and be very profitable. You just have to be very careful and thoughtful in your approach. Like, you don't just want to swing a 40% off discount and hope for the best.
This is kind of what you were mentioning before. Can you share a case, and it's actually kind of like a mix of questions, and hopefully you didn't answer this already, and I was looking at my questions when you said it. Can you share a case where optimizing for profit meant spending less during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but generated better long-term outcomes?
So spending less during Black Friday resulted in better long-term outcomes?
Yeah. Optimizing for profit meant spending less during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but generated better long-term outcomes.
Yeah, cool. So this is kind of a question around a profit sheet play versus a balance sheet play. So this is like something that you won't hear much from agencies, because if you hear an agency that says we're profit driven, we're going to report to you across profit, etc., you then inherently get KPI'd by the client across profit. The issue with that, if you want to be like truly a good consultant across an ecom brand, is that if an ecom brand only optimizes for profit, they can really get themselves in a bad position and like even go bankrupt. And I've seen multiple brands get themselves into a position where if we're just looking at P&L month on month, fantastic. Like, they look like they're in a great position. I can literally name brands right now that are in this position where 20 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand a month profit, but they've got a 30 to 60 day road before they go bankrupt. And the reason for that is that their balance sheet gets overwhelmed with inventory that they can't clear back into cash. And so they just run out of cash. And so in those circumstances, you may actually want to think about, okay, we can optimize for the most amount of profit. in November, which is what you mentioned in the example. But then we have all this inventory that we need to move at some point in the future to turn back into cash to continue fueling the business and continue spending on media, operating expenses, etc. And so because of that, we might actually want to flip the script in November. And I'm going to say the opposite of what you suggested, which is that we might actually want to discount really heavily. We might want to go up to 50, 60, 70% off discounting because there is so much grade C inventory that hasn't moved for the whole year. We did a product launch. We launched this color variant. We thought it would work. It didn't. No one wanted it. We couldn't move it profitably. So we just stopped moving it. And now in November, that's the point in which you can capitalize and you can go, okay, everyone's discounting. It's hopefully not going to tarnish our brand. So let's go on discount, but let's discount hard across all those products that we launched that we shouldn't have launched, that we just need to move and we need to get that cash back. Most agencies won't think or plan like that. Even us, like we won't do that for a lot of clients because we don't have visibility over inventory. Like you can't make that decision unless you have visibility on inventory, and most people don't give agencies visibility on it. But if you can make that decision, you can actually set the business up for a much healthier Q1 and Q2, so that you can then refocus on maximizing profit. I hope that kind of round circle answered the question.
Yeah, that was a good answer. For a brand at the $5 million mark, what's the biggest advantage of hiring an agency over building an in-house team?
Good question. Kind of getting me to sell the agency model. So like there's a lot of pros and cons of each. I would say that the pro of working with a good agency, if you're a $5 million brand, is that ideally you get access to talent that you otherwise might not be able to access internally with one single hire. You also get access to systems. And I really hate the word systems. Everyone throws the word systems around like it means something when half the time it means absolutely nothing and you're just using the word. But in application, systems should be some way of working that has generated effective results historically that can get translated into your particular business. And so a really good example is that 25 to 30% of our client portfolio is large fashion retailers. We have successfully, consistently, for every single large fashion retailer we've worked with, got insane results measured against profit contribution and whatever it is. There's a very specific reason as to why that's the case. There's very specific things that we have done, that we have tested, that have worked. And so now we kind of have that blueprint that we can go and copy paste. Is that necessarily talent? No, it's just something that we've done. We've identified a pattern, we can copy paste it. So it's a system. So that's like what you're looking for. Then going down the discussion of trying to vet for talent systems and everything else that might be a pro on the agency side, like that's very, very difficult to do. And that's why agencies end up with a bad stigma a lot of the time, is because at the end of the day, and I hate to shift blame, but it actually does become a skill deficiency from e-com brands that they can't effectively vet agencies on the front end. And ultimately, that's because agency salespeople are like incredibly good. Like they'll sell you a dream. You'll go, "Oh, that's fantastic. I'll take that." And the good ones won't. The good ones won't sell you a dream. They'll give you the reality of what building a business is, which is that you're not going to grow 600% next year. And so people end up opting for the quick wins.
I actually wanted to ask you about that because you've said that an agency's role is to add 10 to 20% efficiency lift and not to 3x a business. So why is setting this expectation so important?
I said this on a podcast like a week or two ago, which was that the people that come to a paid media agency with the expectation that the paid media agency will deliver the entirety of the growth within the business is like completely incorrect. A really good paid media agency should be able to improve the efficiency of the current media spend, which should allow for a improvement in compounded growth over time. But to expect to go to a paid ads agency, I think you would agree with me as well, an SEO agency, an email agency, any kind of agency solution here, and expect that they are going to be the core driver of growth within the entire business for the infinite future is just crazy to me, particularly when an e-com brand is, I would say, 80% product and branding. And so if 80% is the product and the brand that's being created, and you are outsourcing other aspects of the business that sit outside of that, to expect that they will generate all of the growth is wild. Now, a paid ads agency should also, or a good SEO agency, I imagine as well, should also to some capacity give you good feedback on product and brand and be able to say, this is probably not a good direction. This is, maybe this marketing event should be entered into the calendar. Maybe this product performing terribly. We did our keyword research. There's not enough volume for it. If you're trying to drive this through SEO, it's not a good play. But to expect to come to you and be like, give me $20 million in revenue growth over the next 2 years, I have never seen clients that we've partnered with that have that mentality be truly incredibly successful. The incredibly successful brands that we work with are always hiring agencies through the lens of, these guys should hopefully give a 5% lift, a 10% lift to what we're currently doing because they're better than who we're currently using, or they're better than being internal because we would really struggle to stay up to date on the skills that they have there. And so we're going to opt for that. They're not going, we're going bankrupt. These guys are going to solve it. That's an absurd expectation that a lot of agencies set. And so it sets that precedent in the market.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I personally with SEO, I think it's better. Actually, a lot of the time, I think it's better if somebody's in-house, because you just really want an SEO person in order to be able to do effective, especially purchase intent SEO, bottom of funnel SEO. You want them to know as much as possible about the brand's offerings. So whether it's a product, whether it's a service, because then you can make very effective, accurate landing pages and know the keywords to target. So it's
That's
like,
interesting.
It's really useful. It's really useful if a lot of people might disagree with me on that. And I was at Dentsu. So like I was at one of the biggest agencies, but it's just, you're so much more effective if you know, especially if you are working with that website day in and day out. You've seen the brand change, but really when you know the offerings just down, then you can target keywords so much more effectively, purchase intent keywords especially.
I would agree with that across like a lot of specific components that exist within paid media. I'd agree with it on creative. I think that having like a creative lead in-house is considerably more effective than outsourcing, because they have so much context across the brand vision that is just going to be very hard to get within an external agency. I still think there's uses in external agencies for particular content types, but I think generally you want a creative lead. There's also like, I would say that there are generic skill sets that sit in paid that I see no use in bringing in-house. I don't think understanding the nuances of your business really impacts account structure in a meta account. I think that that's much higher leverage skilled by someone that's working across 6 to 8 meta accounts, and they can translate learnings to you. I think copy is very good to have in-house, just because, as you said, script writing on video assets, very good to have in-house, because you're likely going to have way more context as to the offerings, the product, the positioning in the market, that's going to likely allow for better scripting in any VSLs that you outsource, or better copywriting in the landing pages that you're pushing.
Well, and what you were saying, what you said about systems, that's completely accurate. I mean, even in SEO, the thing is, if there's an edge case with SEO, you want somebody who has deep agency experience, who has seen so many different scenarios across a range of clients to actually detect that this is an edge case. Yeah. So like specialty setups. You mentioned creative. What percentage of an ad budget should be spent on creative, and how does that change with scale?
There's actually this brand that we've worked with for 6-7 months now, and they spend about $350,000 a month on Meta. And since we onboarded to date, they have provided us with 3 new creatives, which is crazy. Somehow, this is a case study in performance marketing. We've driven growth every single month since they onboarded. But I think that is a wild decision personally to make, to not allocate a substantial amount of a $300,000 media budget to creative production. And the reason why I particularly quote that example is because it's a really good example to use of a business who don't want to allocate funds to creative production because they view creative production as a cost center, not a revenue driver. But they see $300,000 in meta spend as a revenue driver. Yeah, we're spending $300,000, but it's creating revenue. But I would argue that content creation, in fact, I think most people would agree with me, is a revenue driver, not a cost center. Even just the organic distribution of that content is good enough. Like, for example, you and me sitting here right now, arguably there is a cost right now. Like, you are paying with the time that you could bill out, and I am paying with the time that I could bill out. But we're both taking the cost because we probably want to learn a little bit about each other, but also because this piece of content will distribute and will have some kind of organic return expected. The exact same thing applies to organic creation for paid too. And so if I was running that brand, I would allocate at least 10% to content creation. So I would take 30K out of meta spend and put it into creating content. And then from there, you can run incrementality tests around spend distribution to creative. So just like you would where you would spend more on meta or less, I would pull spend out of meta and redistribute to content creation for a month and see the impact on overall efficiency. Because if you can double the amount of creative that you're introducing, whilst it only shaving off 5% of spend, 10% of spend, you're probably going to outweigh that spend decrease with a significant lift in efficiency. So I'd say most people significantly underspend on creative.
How much do you test creative just with organic before going hard with ads?
We don't do much of it, to be honest. I know it's a strategy that some people run. You could like also throw ads up on trial reels and see what kind of reach it gets. We don't do a lot of it. There are some accounts which we do, which stuff goes up organically and then we roll it in ads. I've personally found, and people will disagree with this, that creative works differently organically versus ad format. If I'm making a piece of content personally myself to drive leads organically, it will look different to a paid ad that's driving leads organically. I'll speak slightly differently. It will look a little bit different. And therefore, I think performance will differ. But some people will say that's not true and that argue against it. So,
well, I've seen that. I've made for short form videos, Instagram Reels, TikToks, I've made maybe 3,000 or 4,000 at this point. I've been making videos daily since November 1st, 2022, and I haven't missed a day. Wow. And I've seen cases where ads that I've run have converted to a surprising amount, but like they would completely flop if I put them out just as a normal reel, as an organic IG reel. I've seen that too. Funny enough, though, I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk wrote a whole book about this strategy about taking your best performing organic content and then using those as ads.
Yeah, I'm going to actually test that pretty soon. I don't think it's a bad idea if the hook is the organic content, or it infers into scripting. Like where I think this would be applicable is if a piece of content of mine does really well, talking about that balance sheet versus P&L play. If that did really well organically, I think that could be a good opening for an ad that then is maybe in like podcast style formatting. and then it leads directly into, by the way, if you're thinking about how to blah, 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 and it goes into call to action. Yeah, I think there's merit there for sure.
Yeah, because it's a lot harder to make an organic piece of content that's very sales driven, that
Yeah,
performs well. Whereas
yeah,
that's what you're doing with ads. You're selling. When you're running ads, you're selling. But it's difficult to make organic sales content that will
yeah.
perform well.
I would argue the best top of funnel ads, like when you really go up the funnel, are very good educational content. Um, and so I think that's where like your organic content would probably translate the best. I think that when people think about ads and paid media, people immediately think about, like if I say think of a meta ad right now, you think of something very specific, which is like either a piece of UGC that starts with, hey, this product is so good, here's why I'm using it, or a static with the product and then a bunch of arrows that say, here's all the value propositions. That's like the first thing you think about when you think about a meta ad. But those pieces of content actually don't do well at all when you push them to very cold audiences that have never interacted with your brand before and aren't problem aware. Like if you show someone moisturizer for their face, and I have why would I buy that? I have no idea why I would even need that. Then it's not going to resonate. But if you throw a very top of funnel educational piece at me that would almost seem organic, which is starting off with um, something that directly ties to a problem that I have. Maybe do you get like sunburnt in summer? Well, like I always wondered why, and I wore sunscreen, but it irritated my skin. And so, like, as a guy who's in his late 20s, I was thinking about this issue. And then finally, what I figured out was and then this specific scientific study taught me this, which then led to this. And there's still no introduction of the product, no introduction of everything. And then eventually, 45 seconds in, it's like, I figured out that it was this chemical that fixed it. And also, these guys sell this chemical in this product. So that's what I've been using. That kind of content would crush on very top of funnel audiences, which I think is where you get that Gary Vaynerchuk connection. And I think that's what he's probably playing at.
That makes sense. What do you think of TikTok?
What do I think of TikTok? So far,
So I saw that you're skeptical on it.
yeah, I am. So like the caveat is TikTok Shop isn't available in the Australian market. And so cut TikTok Shop out of this. I'm not talking about it. In terms of just like TikTok ads, we have done a lot of what's actually a reverse geo-lift study. So we have pulled TikTok out of accounts. We've onboarded them. They're spending 50, 60K a month on TikTok. I've gone, I doubt this is actually driving any revenue. So we have pulled spend from 6 or 7 states within the US, measured if there was any decline, no decline. We pull the rest, we see if there's a decline, no decline. And so we've done that consistently now for quite a few brands without any decline. In fact, growth after doing so, which gives me, well, because we've taken that spend, pulled it, and then after 60 days gone, all right, we probably think it was doing nothing, let's put it in Meta, and then seeing growth. And so just the redistribution of the spend to Meta was better because I think Meta is a much better ad serving platform. Opposite to that, we have got really good case studies. So there is one brand in particular who's very, very large, who spends a very, very large budget on TikTok. And we have run it in controlled geo-lift experiments in Australia, US, and UK. And on all regions, it is shown to be incremental and at a very good cost to acquire a customer. And so with that, I'm like, okay, there is opportunity here. The platform does work for some brands in some particular instances. But I think for most brands, it's not a good solution for trying to find extra reach. The reality is everyone who's on TikTok is on Instagram and Facebook. I think most people would like agree with that statement. And so then the question becomes, why is TikTok not working as well as Meta and Instagram? Well, it might be the buying mindset of people when they're on the platform compared to Meta and Instagram for sure. But it's probably just the fact that Meta and Instagram have a considerably better ad serving algorithm and therefore place your media much more efficiently. And so you do get a good return. On TikTok, it's new. They probably haven't dialed in their algorithm yet. They probably haven't been able to copy paste it straight off Meta. And so because of that, the platform hasn't matured into the kind of efficiency that you see out of Meta, which is just, it's honestly crazy how good Meta is at serving ads to people and extracting value.
It is crazy. What skills do you think will be non-negotiable for performance marketers in the next couple of years beyond platform expertise?
I'd put it down to probably 2 skills that I would focus on if I was a performance marketer. Skill number 1 is creative. It's like very front end in a lot of messaging right now in the marketing space, which is that like you see a lot of content, which is ad account structure doesn't matter. Here's what you do, just create a campaign. All that matters is the creative. I think that they're like extreme takes to get virality. I don't think that's entirely correct, but I do agree to a degree, which is that creative is unbelievably important. You will never get a brand off the ground without very strong creative strategy, being able to understand what worked in the ad, how do we replicate this, what kind of direction do we take? So being able to create feedback loops. And then the second skill is finance for sure. And so it's being able to connect marketing into finance, bring those conversations together so that you can help founders or marketing managers, et cetera, or CFOs within larger businesses too, be able to make the correct decisions on where they're allocating their media spend across channels, across campaigns, across the year as well. Like how should spend be paced through November? How should spend be paced throughout the calendar year? How are we approaching forecasting within marketing into finance? And then how does that tie into budgeting, et cetera? Like there's a very deep rabbit hole there, but I would definitely get at least a fundamental understanding of those 2 skills.
I can tell talking to you, there's a reason that Gagan Gotra recommends you so highly. It's like you strike me as somebody who, and I say this only in the most complimentary way because I'm the same. That you strike me as somebody who's obsessed.
Yeah,
and I'm also, when it comes to SEO, especially, I'm obsessed. And
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's really awesome. At what point do you think a founder should stop running their own ads? And then who is the most critical first marketing hire the founder should make?
When do you think a founder should stop running their own ads? Yeah, so this is like the dilemma of the small. Maybe you would have firsthand experience with this as well. The dilemma of the small business owner at the very start is that there is so much to do, but only a finite amount of time. Like the light at the end of the tunnel is eventually once you achieve escape velocity, you can hire people and delegate those tasks away from you, hopefully to competent people, and then you get your time back. And you can hopefully eventually work a 40-hour week and revenue doesn't tank and the whole thing blows up, like you'd hope. But in the interim, you need to figure out, what do I delegate? And how do I start getting my time back as I start doing revenue? And a lot of people go to, paid ads, because there's all these paid ad agencies, everyone's saying they can 20x my revenue, let's go and outsource that. I actually don't think outsourcing paid ads is a good idea if your entire business is reliant on paid ads. Like if your acquisition channel and your whole business is built off of paid ads, why outsource it? You'd probably say the same thing on SEO. If you built your whole e-com business or whatever it is off SEO and you're at 1 million revenue now, 1.5, you're continuing to grow, it's doing well. Why would you outsource the one core skill that you were excellent at? Don't do that. Like hold on to that at least for a while. Now, eventually you probably want to let it go. You want to delegate it to someone who's good. But for now, I would continue doubling down on what you're actually good at, continue understanding it, because then when you do outsource it, you know what to look for. If you're I would imagine that you would be incredibly good at being able to tell who else is good at SEO therefore hire them and say, you can run it for me. That's what you want if that's a big acquisition channel within the business. And so because of that, I would hold on to management until you're at least 4 or 5 million. The reason why that's also important is that if you go and hire an agency and you're sub 4 or 5 million, you will not be given to the best in the team. Like it's just, it is just how it is, right? If you have $100 million revenue clients and you have $2 million revenue clients, why would the best people in the team be working on the $2 million revenue client when the $100 million revenue client has 50x the ad spend and might be consequentially paying 5 to 10x more for the appropriate resourcing? Um, and so because of that, you want to at least get to scale where you understand the skill, you understand how to outsource it. You're at a revenue level in which you will be prioritized, depending on who you're working with. And then I would outsource at like 5 to 6 million, something like that.
You would outsource at 5 or 6 million.
I would say so per year. Yeah. And then I quite honestly wouldn't bring paid media back in-house entirely. And the reason why I wouldn't is because the market moves so fast in paid. I would say it probably is the same in SEO, but the market moves so unbelievably fast. And I have interviewed, I would say probably at least 600 performance marketers globally. Every single person who I have interviewed who has gone from agency to in-house and been in-house for 1 to 2 years, we have never hired, because they almost, the second you leave an agency, your skill growth stops and you just get left in whatever year your exit date was on the agency. Because once you're put into an in-house environment and you're the only person, you don't learn off anyone. You don't have people around you doing performance marketing. You're not KPI'd on any kind of growth. You don't have people that all they talk about every day in the office is this update on Google, this update on Meta. Oh, what do you think about Andromeda? Now we need to go on creatives. This account, I just saw this work. We should do more like that. All of that just goes to nothing. And then it's just you on one account and that's it. And so your growth ends up stalling completely. And so when you end up hiring in-house, someone might be great, but I can guarantee within 1 year or 2 years, they're going to be so far behind that having at least an external consultant or an external agency to keep you updated on the movements and how things are changing is like absolutely critical.
Yeah, I think you need the external consultant, because the thing, I mean, with SEO, a problem with a lot of agencies is that SEOs don't actually have experience with implementation. So most of the time they're making recommendations. Oh, change this, change that. They're not actually, especially with bigger clients, they're not actually going into the CMS. They're not hands-on making the changes. And it's different when it's somebody else's brand and it's not your brand. It's so yeah. When you do have like more clients, you might actually lose insights because you're thinking about you have so many different things on your mind.
Yeah.
And I think you're right about this is with SEO. I think you're right about you need that external consultant to just yeah.
I'm interested. What do you think about SEO in terms of that founder dilemma, where like should a starting founder learn paid ads SEO, all of it, and try to capture all of that skill set? Should they be working with a consultant? Should they ever bring on an agency in SEO?
In SEO, or are we talking about other channels or just SEO?
I'm interested in SEO. Yeah.
Okay, so you're asking when should a founder actually bring on? I would say a founder should bring on an agency only if they're really planning on sticking with that agency, and because the best work is going to come when an agency knows the brand inside and out, when an agency knows the website inside and out. And if it's a bigger client with many pages, it'll take more time to do optimizations because it's a bigger site. Or there might be, the organization might be slow to actually implement the things that the agency needs implemented. So SEO, like we talked about at the beginning, SEO is a channel that takes longer. It's a slower feedback loop.
Yeah.
And so it's the type of thing where you really need to be committed. You're not going to have like, all right, here you go, get us some like crazy results like right away. If it's a smaller, if it's a smaller brand, what I'll say, if it's a brand that's just starting, then it could make sense to go to go with an agency right away, because then you're growing together. But at the same time, you also could, if you don't know anything about SEO, you could get unlucky and you could pick somebody who actually doesn't know what they're doing, and you just don't have the skills to evaluate them.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I would say it would be the same thing in paid too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say so, which is that, yeah, I'm going to say something, but I blanked, but for sure it applies to paid.
Okay. This is something that I'm just genuinely curious about. I'm sure you've seen the hype around all these like AI ad makers. We can use generative AI and make 1,000 creatives like that. And there's so much hype around this. Much hype around this. So what do you think of those?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think like one more Sora, like Sora 3, is going to be crazy. I think like there's so much hype, but I don't think we're there yet. And I think everyone kind of agrees. Like your feed, if you think about it right now, your feed isn't flooded with AI ads yet. So therefore we aren't there, but we're very, very close. Then it's kind of like asking the question of, okay, so let's say we are there in 3 weeks, or we are there in 2 months, whatever it happens. What happens? Like what happens? What's the impact of this? The impact is like probably the same as every time there's a large shift within a market, which is that there's a short period of opportunity. There's a short arbitrage opportunity in which if you quickly hop on and you start cranking out 600 ads a month, you are probably going to do incredibly well very quickly. Reason being is that the average Joe, even probably me, is going to scroll Instagram and I'm not going to know that it's AI. And so then what is the difference between me seeing a real ad and an AI ad? It doesn't matter. The issue then is that everyone will hop on, everyone will capitalize on infinite AI ads. And then we kind of get into a post arbitrage opportunity in which we're in this era where all ads are fake. And we're both sitting here and we're like, every ad on my feed isn't real. Okay. So what is even the value in the creative anymore? Because I don't even trust anything. Well, there's probably some types of ads that it literally doesn't matter to you or me. I physically don't care if it's AI. A good example is like a studio shot ad of someone holding the product. I don't care if there's a person or a fake person in there. I just want to see the product and how it looks like. It's irrelevant to me. Great use case for AI. I think a really bad use case is trying to build personal connection to particular people through AI models. And I think that is where real creative and connection to influencers and like celebrities and founders, I think that is going to be the reversion of content that comes back that's real, which is like a founder hopping on camera and talking about the product. Sure, you might be able to AI it, but it's probably easy to just shoot it naturally. I think that's going to have a lot of value. Having just some random generated person on a screen saying how good the product is, I think people will stop believing it. It will like lack authenticity, and it will work for a bit for sure. But I think everyone will catch on and be like, I don't trust this anymore.
Slop. Do you?
Yeah.
I wonder at what point you will struggle to choose AI over a human, or when you will actually choose to have something be human made versus AI.
Yeah, like it's interesting to think about. I don't think anyone knows. Like at the end of the day, I'm just trying to theorize on like what will happen. But when you introduce infinite content,
yeah,
even organic, right? Like infinite organic content. The
bottleneck is actually putting it up.
Yeah, and like thinking of, but like you could start creating feedback, because I watch so much AI content now that I genuinely enjoy watching.
Me too.
Like, yeah, like stuff of like animals like doing crazy stuff, and you're like, that's kind of funny.
It's kind of funny.
And, yeah,
oh, look,
and like
that dog is on a scooter riding through traffic.
Yeah, and then I'll even send it to people. I'll be like, send it. Like, they'll find that funny.
Yeah, me too.
So I think the AI content has some degree of value. I don't know if it'll wear off. If at some point it'll be like we're
Dude, it
just
is.
numb.
Have you been using Sora too?
No, we don't have it in Australia.
You no, well, so I'm traveling through Europe and we're not supposed to have it in Europe, but you use a VPN
Yeah.
and
Oh,
it
nice.
works just fine. I can give you my code
Yeah.
after this.
Yeah. Shoot it through.
Yeah, I'll guess. I'll give it to you. So, dude, so like right away I get it and I make a hook where I'm interviewing Sam Altman because Sam Altman allows people to cameo himself. So
Mm.
Sam Altman allows people to actually use his likeness in their Sora generations. And so I make a hook and I'm sitting at my table and I'm asking, and it's amazing. Sora 2 literally like has the entire layout of like my area. And so it actually looks like I am there. It really looks convincing that I am. People even commented, "What, Sam Altman's with you?" And so I say to Sam Altman, I say, "How does ChatGPT search the internet to get its answers?" I say that to Sam Altman, and then Sam Altman's about to speak, and then I go and I explain it, and I show my computer, and I'm like, "Here's what a query fan out is, and here's actually how you can see what queries ChatGPT is searching the internet with." And that video across all platforms got like 3 million views and it was with a
Crazy.
Sora 2 hook. And I've made lots of other successful Sora hooks since. But at the same time, so I went hard using Sora, and now I'm kind of getting the feeling that the novelty is wearing off. There
Mm.
are lots of funny Sora things still being made, but like me and all of my friends, we were using it nonstop for a couple of days, and now it's like, it's just like, but
Yeah.
I'll give you my code. All right, I know you got to go in a second, so this is the last question that I'm going to ask you. What is your single best piece of advice for a 7-figure founder struggling to break into the 8-figure range?
The big loaded question. Um, the best piece of advice. I would. There's two ways you get to 8 figures from 7 figures. Really, it's through additional product launches, or it's through being really good at scaling creative and changing angles for the one product. And so I would think through which route you want to go and become very good at one of those pathways. You either really want to triple down on becoming unbelievable at creative, designing different offers and designing different concepts to then push that creative through, or really think through how you can create successful product launches moving forward from what you're currently selling. And then if you have 3 products that can all hold $4 million in revenue a year, you've cracked through 8 figures.
Is there something that you see? You mentioned 2 different routes there. Is there one that you see that's more successful than the other typically? Or is it like split down the middle?
I would prefer, if I was running the business, I would prefer the option where I don't have 4 products because it adds a lot of additional complexity to the business. And the chance of product launch failures is very, very high. If you just think about it, because I said this to someone the other day and they went, "Oh, really? Like when you launch products, like it often fails. Why is that?" And it's like, well, think about getting one product right. Like find product market fit on one product. It's very difficult. Like I was trying to do it in drop shipping. I failed like 1,000 times. Getting one product that people actually want to buy from you that is at an efficient acquisition cost is unbelievably hard. Try doing it twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Like it's very, very hard to do. Um, I would personally prefer to go down the other route. The situation where product launches actually really favors an industry is in fashion. This is one of the reasons why in Australia specifically, it doesn't really translate into other countries because they have larger TAMs. But in Australia, all the biggest businesses on direct to consumer ecom are all fashion, all of them. And it's because the TAM's very big. Like if you're women's fashion within 20 to 35-year-olds, it's a very big market. And number two, is that they have consistent product launches all the time. They have like a basics range, and then everything else is just turning over every 2 to 4 weeks. And because of that, you significantly increase your ability to spend, because there's 2,000 products that we can spend on and drive all at once. You increase your LTV, and you increase the surface area in which you can capture everyone that wants at least one of these products at this period in time.
Where can everybody find you?
First is Blue Sense Digital YouTube. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn, Nathan Perdriau. You won't be able to spell my last name, so I'm sure you'll put a link somewhere.
Yeah, I'll have all of your links in the description. Thank you for being here. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you. This was great. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and thank you again to Gog and Gotra for connecting us. For everybody who watched on YouTube or who listened on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, thank you so much for watching, for listening, for tuning in. This is episode 848 of The Edward Show. This is my daily digital marketing podcast. 848 days in a row doing this crazy podcast. No days missed. We're almost at 850 consecutive days. So thanks everybody, and I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye now.